back to you, Lori?
Yes, I texted you back. She said that as of this afternoon, she was set to do it.
Oh, good. Okay. Just want to make sure. Hi, Bruce. I think Bruce is mute. There he is.
I'm muted. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm trying to use my fiance's computer tonight to look at the agenda,
Okay.
and it's a lot different than mine.
Oh, well, we have quite the agenda this evening.
Yeah, it's quite lengthy. I've already looked at it. I'm just trying to pull it back up again.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and bundle some things so that we don't have to be going back and forth, because it's a state statute that we have to have public input before we vote.
Right.
So instead of doing it every single time, I'm going to bundle them. You'll see, I'll get through it so that we'll discuss 4 things at a time, then let the public discuss 4 things, and then I'll bring it back and we'll have a vote individually.
Well, I hate to ask you in front of everybody, but could you change your hair color a little bit? It looks different.
No.
It does. Okay.
Is it a good color?
It looks great. That's why I was going to make a comment. I like it.
I haven't. Nope. But thank you for the compliment. Ooh, 5:57. What else do we have?
Lori has joined, Mayor. I see her
I
online.
see
Now.
her. Uh-huh. And Kyle is somewhere. I can see his picture.
I'm
There
here.
he is. Hi.
There's that handsome fella.
I'm just seeing your picture though. Are you,
I'm here. In and out,
Hey, Kyle.
guys.
Okay, I'm good, I think.
all right, everybody's here?
All right.
2 minutes.
This thing is such a pain in the butt to learn how to use. Here we go. Hey, Frank.
Hey, Bruce. Hey, Keith.
How you doing?
Good. How about you guys?
Great. Hey, Lori.
A lot of visitors tonight. Very nice. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a Village of Tequesta regular council meeting. It is Thursday, August 13th, 2020, and it is 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Brennan,
Here.
Vice Mayor Stone,
Here.
Councilmember Brandon,
Here.
Councilmember Deambra,
Here.
Councilmember Prince.
Here.
Thank you. The invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Council Member Lori Brandon.
I'd like to start by having everyone bow their heads. Father, we thank you tonight for all of the blessings that you have bestowed upon our village. We are grateful to be able to come together tonight, to be able to conduct business for the people of the village. Please continue to bless our village family with health and happiness. Give us your strength to continue through this year of 2020. And please watch over our men and women who stand up to protect us against harm. Amen.
Amen.
And for the Pledge of Allegiance, I pledge allegiance
To the
to the
flag
flag of the United
United
States of
States
America
of America,
and
and
to
to the
to the
republic
republic
for which it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice for all.
for all.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have two presentations this evening. The General Employee Pension Board will be presented by Board Chair Michael Rhodes. And I did see Michael there. Brad, can you let him in?
I'm sorry,
How
who?
about now? Is that better?
Michael Rhodes.
Michael Rhodes. Yes,
This is Mike. Can everyone hear me?
there he is.
Yes.
I can.
Hello.
I'll turn the volume up. How's that?
Yes, you're fine.
We can
It's
hear
good.
you, Mike.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have just a little short presentation, which I think, and hopefully everyone's received an advanced copy of it.
Mayor, if I could ask you for a minute, I need to mute the public.
All right.
I will unmute everybody in just a second, all the council. Okay, Mr. Rhodes, you should be good to go now.
Okay. I'm going to hit share my screen. Does everyone see my screen? Hang on, please. How's that? Everyone see that?
Yes?
Yes,
Yes.
Very good. Again, this is Mike Rhodes. Glad to see everyone on this beautiful day in South Florida in paradise, right? What I'd like to do, if I could please, is just go through a few of these slides, which you, again, I trust have an advanced copy of. For the sake of time, just to highlight a few key points and then open it up for any questions in the session, okay? If we could turn to page 4 of the presentation. And that's this here. You can see at the end of the quarter in June 30th, the fund had a balance of just under 6.7 million. As a quick reference, that compares to 5.8 million on the previous quarter ending March 31st. Significant rebound, as we know, back in March, that was the start of our COVID era. As a further point of reference, 6 months ago, when the quarter ended December 31st, the fund had a balance of 6.2 million. So again, overall, the fund's rebounded to that 6 point level at the end of June. I might add, as of yesterday, it's continued to go in the northeast direction and currently stands at about 7.1 million. In terms of asset allocation, as the graph there shows, we have just over 50% in domestic equity. That's split basically even between Dana Investment Managers and a Vanguard mutual fund that we have. Dana is at 26% and Vanguard at 25%. Next, we have international equity at 13%. or roughly about $900,000. That's in a Euro Pacific mutual fund. Next, we have domestic fixed income of about 20% or 1.4 million. That's also with Dana. Next, we have a small portion of about $250,000 or 3.8% of the total fund, which is Templeton Global Fund Mutual Fund as well. And then we have 8% in a real estate fund, which we've had for a couple of years. And that's just over $500,000 at 531 to be exact. And then finally, we have cash equivalents of about 2.9%. This chart just gives us a comparison of how our fund is allocated to all other funds, regardless of size. So I won't go through all these, but just a quick couple reference points. You'll see under US equities, that first column, again, 51%, which I alluded to a few minutes ago, that ranks in the top 26% quartile of all other funds. You read top to bottom there. The medium or average, about halfway down, as a point of comparison, shows that the medium for all other funds is about 47%. So we are slightly higher in the equity allocation compared to the compared to US fixed income, 3 columns over. You can see that we have 20% just over. The median is at 29%. So hence we're in the top or low quartile in terms of allocation in fixed income because we have more allocated to equities. So again, if there's more questions, when we open it up here in a few minutes, we can come back to this chart if necessary, if somebody has more questions on it. Next chart, real quickly, looks at the total fund for the year-to-date basis. So our fund has a 4.4% return on a year-to-date basis as of June 30th, which is compared to the benchmark of just slightly above that of 4.6%. Against all other funds, we rank at 22% in the upper quartile for just from an overall total fund standpoint. Our domestic equity is 5.2%, benchmark of 5.3. International equities really hit a few home runs at 4.8% versus the benchmark, which you see there is negative 2.7 for other funds. Domestic fixed income of just over 5% versus, or right at the budget, I'm sorry, the benchmark of 5.15%. Finally, we have global fixed income of negative 4% versus a benchmark of 1%. Again, that just represents a small, roughly $250,000 fund that we have. But just in our last meeting, just as a quick side note, we've asked our investment manager to look at that in terms of alternative global fixed funds that we could look at to replace the current fund that we have, which is a well-known fund. It's a Templeton Global Fund, but it's just not performed well in the last year and a half. This next chart I'll conclude before I answer or turn it over for Q&A. Again, the overall fund, as I mentioned earlier, is at 4.4%. Then on a 3-year return basis, we're at 7.3%, which ranked in the top 22% of all funds. And on a 5-year basis, we're at 6.5%, which ranks in the 40 percentile. And then since inception, which has been just over or just at 20 years ago, we rank at the return is 6.3%, which is in the top 7 percentile range. And before I open it up for any questions, that 6.3% also compares to our actual assumed rate of return goal, which is 6.5%. And as you can tell at the bottom there was a link where I don't know if anyone had time, but there was a detailed report that backs up all the relative numbers I mentioned so far. So with that, I'll just open it up for any questions, please.
Thank you, Michael. Council?
Well, Michael, go ahead.
I have a couple questions, Mike, and just want to thank you for the time that your committee has put into this. I know you guys have been meeting remotely, and sometimes that makes it obviously challenging what we're doing today, but thank you for all that you guys do. I know you have a good group. You touched on it briefly, and I just kind of want to just get clarification. My concern is on the fixed income side, the allocation at 20%. And remind me for the reason for that additional risk. Is that because of the age group of the people that the plan represents, or is there something else?
No, it's more of an investment strategy. From an overall standpoint, taking a step back, we have just over 65% of our fund is in equities and 24% in total fixed income, whether domestic or international, in both of those benchmarks. And then you look at, as an example, on a 3-year return basis, our equities have averaged just over 9% per year, and our fixed income has averaged just over 3%. So historically, and as the cumulative results show, you get more return out of a higher allocation to equities versus fixed income. And again, with that benchmark of 6% for the actuarial benchmark goal, it's really needed to have a higher weight to equities versus fixed income.
Okay, I agree with that. Are you planning on keeping that actuarial rate at 6.5, or is there talk about reducing that?
Well, actually, we just reduced it about 6 months ago, Kyle, from 7% to the 6.5%, based upon some of our some input from our actuarial studies. And it was at 7.5% about just over a year and a half ago. So we've taken steps over the last couple of years to reduce it accordingly. And again, our return on a cumulative basis since inception is just over 6.2%. So it's pretty much in balance.
Appreciate it, Mike. Those are the questions I had.
Hey, Mike, it's Frank. A couple of quick questions. The Dana fixed, what's the duration on that right now? Do you know offhand?
It's like 3.5 years.
Okay. In March, and this is, by the way, this is not a gotcha question, but it's just more of a curiosity question. In March, when the market fell as dramatically as it did, a lot of family offices actually went out and borrowed money from the banks in order to buy equities on the basis that they felt that they basically were on sale. With the fixed income allocation, I'm just curious, did we give any thought to the idea of even increasing our equity allocation at that point in time, take advantage of that?
Well, we have increased equity from an overall policy standpoint.
Right.
And by 2.5, I think it's just under 3, it's just between 2.5 and 3%, Frank. So
Okay.
we've increased our equity position than what it was 6 months ago.
Okay, but tactically, we were going to stay with the policy. We weren't going to deviate from that.
And we're still within the policy parameters in terms of total headroom for equity allocation versus fixed income.
Okay, and then the other thing is, I think I know the answer to this. I want to confirm this, but when we show our fund returns and we say it's gross, and we're comparing it to the other return numbers, are those numbers also gross numbers?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so it is, we are apples to apples.
Yes, we are. Very
All
good.
right. All right, very good. Listen, thanks. You guys are, I think, doing a good job, and there's challenging circumstances. So as Kyle said, appreciate all your work.
Well, thank you very much to everyone.
Any other questions? All right, that's it, Mike, again, for all of your work. We appreciate you so very much.
Well, thank you, Abby, and I appreciate everyone as well, and have a great day, and I'm going to bid you farewell, okay?
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Our second presentation is the Advanced Meter Infrastructure Project update by Core and Main, and it is being presented by Utilities Director Matt Hammond.
I am looking for everybody to unmute them now. If you can give me a second, there's actually a lot of people in the meeting to scroll through. All right, Matt is unmuted.
Fred, if you could find a gentleman by the name of Dwayne, I think it says Dwayne with Core and Main on his screen.
I have unmuted Dwayne and Javier.
Yes.
All right,
I'm
thank you.
here. Good evening.
So thank you. Good evening. With the challenges that associated with the meter replacement project that have been ongoing this summer, we asked Core and Main to come in and provide an update. The primary vendor on the project, we asked them to come in and provide an update directly to the council and the public on the project. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Self with Core and Main, and chime back in at the end to assist with any questions that the council may have. Dwayne, it's all yours.
Good evening. I'm going to share a screen here real quick. Let me know if everybody everybody can see it. Should be displaying now.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time to come in and explain kind of where we're at with this project. And I know there's been some questions about it, and that's what we're here to answer. I really kind of wanted to back up and talk a little bit as we move along in the project about who all is here from my team. What I can tell you is this project has all eyes on it at the highest echelons of both core and main and our manufacturer census. But Chuck Reed is on the phone as well as Jason Milhorn and Javier Rezzacani from core and main. And then we have Bob Whitaker and Mark Costello with census is also here with us, and they'll chime in if you guys ask any questions that are technical and maybe might be even beyond where I would go. I'd go to one of my technical experts. Before I get going with the problems encountered, I did want to give an opportunity for Chuck Reed, who's a vice president with core and main, maybe to say a quick word. Or is Chuck unmuted? And he would be under CR 073717.
I do not see that user.
Okay.
Oh, no, I do. I'm sorry. He's at the bottom. It does not appear that he's connected to audio, but he is connected to video.
Okay. I don't know if Chuck you can hear us or not, or I'll just move along if not, but Chuck.
Chuck would have to join with computer audio in his Zoom console before he could present.
What I'll do, I'll just, for the sake of time, I'll move on, and if we get the audio sorted out, I'm sure he would like the opportunity to at least say a brief word or two. We did want to talk a little bit about the difficulty and the problems that we've encountered, and I want to kind of go to the root cause, and then we're going to talk about the extenuating circumstances that really kind of created situation to be a little bit maybe to land a little bit different than we would have liked it to. So when we did this project and we basically upgraded your existing walk-by drive-by system to a fixed-base system, one of the things that it required was a frequency conversion. So your existing walk-by drive-by system is on one radio frequency, and all the radios need to be migrated to a separate frequency to be able to be heard on the fixed-base system. Normally, that's done with an automated conversion process where a vehicle-borne unit drives through the city and transmits and converts the radios to the new frequency. And it's a relatively quick, painless, and easy process. The problem we ran into with DeQuesta was that this automatic conversion process did not work with the specific frequency that you guys were already on. So what that basically meant was, instead of us doing it in a very fast automated process, the only way to convert those radios is to use a very slow manual process where an individual has to go to each meter, deactivate it, reactivate it, and move along, so on and so forth. So that's really at the core of where this problem started, was that this problem was encountered early in the process. The extenuating circumstances, or the items that made this problem larger rather than smaller, was the core and main employee that was assigned to this project did not report the problem to anybody up the core and main chain or to the manufacturer to alert them that he was having problems with this process and that the automatic process wasn't working. So no assistance was sought. He also failed to provide periodic milestones or touch points to the utility. When the problem arose, really his response was he was working on it, and then he, on the data delivery side, he agreed to provide the electronic reads to the village of Tequesta. When he went to provide those reads, he didn't allot enough time essentially to go out and collect all those reads, nor did he have all of the equipment, because part of the meters were on the new PCS frequency, part of the meters were on the old MAS frequency, and he didn't have the proper equipment to be able to collect all those reads in an automated fashion. And rather than raise his hand and ask for help or get more equipment in there, he used estimated reads on the meters that he was unable to collect electronic reads for. And this created a problem with read integrity to the village. It's definitely not the route that Core and Main would have wanted to see this go down, but that's the route that this employee took and went forward. So we were alerted to the problem a few weeks back that this was a problem. And as a result, on 7/27, we sent in about 6 individuals on site to do a top to bottom review of this account, attempt to figure out what the problem with the frequency conversion was and get an overall product status. In looking at this, what I can tell you is we have determined that the fastest way to do this frequency conversion at this point is the manual route. But what we're going to do is we're going to hire an outside contractor. This will be at no charge to the village of Tequesta. Bring that outside contractor in and get this done as fast as possible. We are working right now on a data integration file to their work order management system, and we hope to be able to have the contractor on site the week of 8/24 to begin flipping all of the remaining transmitters to this new frequency. We feel like we can get that done in about a 30-day completion cycle. As we also looked at this, we also identified some units that we felt like we wanted to maybe go ahead while we had contractors in the field and do some proactive warranty replacement work. So we're going to also replace about 1,100 transmitters for the village of Tequesta, again, at no charge. The transmitters are currently working. We just feel like because they've been in this walk-by, drive-by, and a little bit of a suspended state, we want to just remove them from the system and bring in some new transmitters. Another item that we identified as a problem with this account was the communication plan. So our individual did not communicate to Core and Main supervisors, nor did he communicate with the city the problems that he was having. So what we've done to alleviate this, we have removed that existing AMI specialist from this account. We have assigned a new AMI specialist, and when I say new, he's actually been around a decade in the waterworks world here, you know, and he is came from a city background, and he's a very seasoned guy, knows what he's doing. We also structured a support team around this individual, so it's not one man tilting at a windmill. We have a lot of technical expertise that we're throwing at this project to accelerate getting it back on track as quickly as possible. We started weekly project update calls with the Tequesta utility staff, and we've assigned senior management level executives to be executive sponsors for the village of Tequesta. And that's both on the census side and the Core and Main side. So you have the utility director will have the phone number to a vice president inside of Core and Main, and the regional sales director inside of census. If he doesn't like the way anything's going, he can reach all the way to the top of the company and get that. It also allows the project team that's working on this to get buy-in from the senior level management and get quick action on resolution to issues. The last piece of this correcting the items that went wrong is the data delivery plan. And the way we're handling the data delivery plan basically is by utilizing additional equipment so that we're able to electronically read both the MAS frequency devices and the PCS frequency devices. So we have a maximum number of electronic reads. We're assigning additional people to go out and gather reads. And we're working to identify the issues that prevents the data automation. And any units that have a transmitter attached, if for some reason we're unable to collect an electronic read, we will be taking a manual read in the field on those devices. Last item, I did want to kind of go through just to kind of let you know project finalization. We've broken the project really right now into 3 tasks. One is assisting the village of DeQuesta with their monthly meter reads. Second part of this puzzle is accelerating the conversion of the transmitters from the walk-by drive-by frequency to the fixed base frequency by bringing in the outside contractor. And the third item, we've assigned a data specialist to the project to accelerate the validation and commissioning of all of the AMI network software, getting it up and running and providing the training to the village of DeQuesta. And at the bottom, you'll see I have a accelerated timeline established that we're going to try to make this project move forward as fast as possible and do our best to meet as closely as we can the original time frame for the project. So it's going to be a fast and furious couple of months from our side, and the village of DeQuesta. I will express my apologies for the way the project has gone up until this point. We own it. We know we own it. And we're going to do the right thing by way of the village of DeQuesta. So I will pause. That's really what I had to kind of walk through. Happy to take any questions. I don't know if Chuck has his audio working and he's able to make any addresses or not, but that's basically what I had for this evening from a standpoint of a presentation.
Yeah. Thank you, Dwayne. I think I'm on now, so can you
Yes.
verify that?
Yes.
We can hear you, Chuck.
Okay, all right. Well, hey, and this is Chuck Reed, and in regards to the delivery that Dwayne just gave there, when we were notified of this, obviously it's a very important issue to Core and Main and to Census and the villages. So, you know, my position was just to be here to do 2 things. To number 1, determine what had not gone right. Number 2, help provide whatever resources needed to be provided to complete the work as we had contracted to do with the village of DeQuesta, and to make sure we do it in the most expeditious time frame. So basically that's what we're doing, and I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
This is Matt. I just want to piggyback a little bit on what Dwayne had presented and was candid about. You know, I'd be lying if I said this wasn't a frustrating process summer for our customers, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a frustrating and frankly fairly stressful time for our team in working through this. Trying to get the support and work through these issues with the gentleman that we're having problems with. I can say that after meetings, Jeremy and I met with this team last week. I can say that the attention is there. That once the problems came to light, that both Core and Main and Census have brought in the resources and experts both locally and from around the country to focus and get this on track. A focus and something that we've been bringing, and they're on board and completely understand, is that there's a process in building trust back with our customers that was lost over this summer. And so those steps are being, they're participating in those steps being taken, from not just getting the project back on track, but getting, from a data verification, from photographing meters to verify the reads, to providing support afterwards to verify any questions that customers have coming up. That's something that's very important to us, and they understand that and are on board with supporting us to make sure that we have that support to be able to start building that trust back with customers.
Thank you, Matt. I want to thank the two gentlemen as well for coming to talk to us about this. This has obviously been very frustrating to all of us, but also to our residents. So I want to thank you for at least coming in and telling us what had occurred, and that you are going to be fixing it now, and we can count on that moving forward. Is there anything else?
Yeah, I had two quick questions. At the conclusion of this, is everything going to be operating off a single frequency? Is that the final resolution?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And the other thing is, you said you discovered this a few weeks ago. When was personnel at the village notified of this?
Frank, I think the residents notified the village.
Well, I know I know there was notification there were problems with the meter readings, but when did we identify what the issue was?
Councilmember D'Ambra, there was an email provided by the former project manager on this that was sent to the village and Core and Main and Census at the same time.
Okay.
So there was the email was sent out to all parties at the same time.
Okay, because I understand it developing a plan to solve the issue was going to take a little bit of time, but unless I missed something, this is the first I'm hearing of this. And other than the fact that I know there were issues with the meter readings and village residents getting incorrect bills, but I'm a little concerned that unless I missed something, that we weren't notified earlier that there was a problem. Not that the solution had been fully identified and vetted, but that we had not been notified that we knew there was a problem and we knew what the issue was, or what the core issue was of the problem. So future going forward, I would hope when something like this occurs, that as soon as you find out about it, we find out about it.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that was in a weekly report, Frank, that Jeremy sent out. And I'm not sure when that was, but I remember reading something about it.
Okay, I may, like I said, maybe I missed it. I just don't recall having seen anything on it. So just for the future.
Sure. I do have a couple of questions for Dwayne and Mr. Reed. Dwayne, I'm sorry I didn't get your last name.
It's Self, S-E-L-F.
Mr. Self, appreciate that. I know we agreed to your contract, I believe it was back in October or November of this past year. At that time, you had the start date on November 15th was the estimated start date. Can you tell me when the project actually began?
So as far as the TGBs, the original TGBs, I believe that they were slated to go in February. They didn't actually go in until March, but that was, and I was aware of that issue, that had to do with Amphenol, who makes all of the antennas, not only for us, but for cell phone providers, was running some problems. And I don't remember, because I think some of this stuff came out of China. I don't remember if this was, they were laying it to COVID at the time, but I do know that there was some production slowdowns in China, and they said that, hey, it's going to run a couple of weeks behind. But the antennas went up in March, and then in the Aprilish time frame was when the automated data conversion process was supposed to occur. I can't speak, and again, the individual that did this, he's no longer, on the account, no longer with the company. But what I can tell you is the word that I had from my side was that the conversion had taken place and was successful. The first indication that I had that it was not successful and that there was problems was a few weeks ago. July 20 something. I think the 27th was when we were on site. I think Friday or Thursday before was when I became aware that there was the conversion process had in fact not happened. So I think there's a certain amount of this that was not forthcoming from the core and main project manager, not only to the census and core and main team, where he didn't reach out and ask for help and tell us that he was having problems, but I don't know that he was coming necessarily with the problems to the village of Tequesta either. And again, I apologize for that. That's a weakness that has been identified and has been addressed.
I
We'll have to
appreciate
move
that.
forward.
I guess I'm just generally concerned in the aspect of, your contract stated that it would be done in about 150 days. If you started in November, that would have been sometime in April. Here we are now in August, and now we're anticipating a date completion back November 1st of some sort. There seems to be a kind of a disconnect time frame, disconnect in the oversight of that one employee who's taking the fall for this. The residents brought this to our attention, which is, I think, frankly, a little bit embarrassing. I'm concerned in that aspect. I hear in your voice that you hope you get started with this new contractor in August 24th. You feel like it's going to be done in 30 days. I'm just looking for some confidence from somebody that says, hey, we've got this under control. We know we made an issue. We made a mistake. I know we're in a difficult environment, and so I get that. But I just want some confidence from your organization that, one, we're going to get it done. We're going to get it done correctly, and that we're going to stay under that budget of that $731,000 that you guys quoted in the beginning.
Right. What I can tell you is for all of these corrective actions, we're not looking for any, all this is being done at no additional charge to the village of Tequesta. As far as the time frame goes, we're working with the village's software provider to get the interchange file written between everybody. I feel very confident a week is a good amount of time to get that done. We're planning on starting on the not this Monday, but the following Monday, and feel very confident that we can make that date. And then I've had my commitment from our subcontractor that they will bring in the necessary resources to get all of these flipped over in a 30-day time frame. And we have additional personnel from a core and main standpoint. If it doesn't look like that's going to happen, that we will bring in and we'll add personnel to get that done in a 30-day time frame.
And just curious, have you made a trip here? I forgive my ignorance, I'm not sure where you're coming from or where you're at, but. Right.
So Chuck Reed, who is my direct supervisor, was in the village of Tequesta last week. It's all running together now at this point. I believe it was last week. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chuck, about that. I have not. I'm actually located in Arkansas. And I myself have not been there. Chuck decided to, elevate it to a higher level and go himself to visit the village of Tequesta, because we do take this extremely serious. And we do understand, that the village has timelines, and we're doing everything possible to make those timelines happen.
I appreciate it. I know that sometimes these jobs kind of can go south, and I appreciate you sending Mr. Reed out and being present whenever there's an issue. It's always good to get to the site, see what's going on, and have someone there that can help with that oversight and be a decision maker and make things happen. So I know it was an issue. It sounds like you guys showed up. Appreciate you guys tackling this full on. Wish it didn't happen, but you know, when you solve the problem by showing up and taking responsibility and attacking it, I appreciate it.
Anything else from council? All right, then. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your being here with us this evening, and thank you for what you're doing now. That'll help.
We
All right.
appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak to you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I'm reading this into the record. To help prevent the spread of COVID-19, this council meeting is being held remotely using Zoom and YouTube, as has been authorized by Governor Ron DeSantis. This evening, we have 31 items on the council meeting agenda. To improve the flow of the meeting, we will take public comment on a grouping of agenda items prior to council voting separately on each one. We will begin with the consent agenda items 5 through 13. Old business items 15 and 16 will be discussed next. Under new business, council will discuss items 17 through 20, then items 21 through 24, then 25 through 28, and finally 29 through 31. The clerk will read comment cards first, followed by opening the phone lines for those who wish to speak via Zoom. If you plan on speaking, please state your name and address and note which agenda item you wish to speak to. If you do not plan on speaking, please mute your phones now, because when we do open it to the public, it is open to everyone. So if you're not going to speak, please mute your own phone. Once again, council will discuss individually each agenda item first. Public comment will be taken for a group of the agenda items, and then back to council for individual item action. So to begin, we will start with the consent agenda. I will not be asking for a vote at this time. I am looking for council comments first. Are there any changes? Anybody want something pulled, or are we good with the consent agenda?
We're good.
I'm good
I'm
with
good.
the agenda.
Good as well.
Thank
Is there any
you.
proclamations, Mayor?
The proclamations, when someone does not attend, they are mailed to them and we do not read them.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So Brad, we are going to go now out to the public, but Lori, you first. Do you have any cards on this?
I only have a card for citizen comments, nothing on any specific item number.
All right, that'll come next then.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Brad, can you open the lines, please?
The public is free to speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone out there that would like to speak to consent agenda items number 5 through 13? Does not appear to be. Brad, you want to close the lines and let me know when we can speak again?
Sure. I believe that is everyone, Mayor.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Councilman Prince needs to unmute himself.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, that is the end of the consent agenda, and we can keep the lines open at this time. Lori, do you want to read first while Brad's unmuting? You can read the card, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second. She's muted. Lori, if you could click on mute, please.
Okay. I have one card from Jeff Price. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We have been having numerous safety issues with cars and trucks parking in the River Drive. Sometimes these cars are parking for numerous days without being moved. One car whose owner lives in Palm Beach Gardens was parked for 2 weeks without being moved. This is being a serious safety issue for everyone. There should not be allowed overnight parking on the street. These cars are not even partially parked on the grass. If a child gets injured, it should be noted that this issue was not addressed.
All right. Thank you. Brad, are you open?
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have anything to talk to us about that is not on the agenda, please speak now. All right, that doesn't look like we have then. Is Chief Medina unmuted?
He is.
Chief, would you care to speak to that citizen's complaint?
Sure, Mayor. If I could get the information from Lori, I'll be more than happy to reach out. I need to know specifically, what the issues are. But in regards to ordinance, I would have to review our ordinance to see if there's any violations. But I'll be more than happy to take a look at it.
I emailed that to you, Chief, so you should have it shortly.
Okay. I'll definitely reach out and have a conversation.
Thank you. Brad, do you have to unmute us again?
Yeah, I do. Give me 1 minute. Okay, Mayor, you should be good to proceed.
All right, thank you. We now will go to communications from council. And since I can't see anybody really, Councilmember Gamber, would you like to start?
I'm good for this evening, especially considering the length of the agenda we have tonight.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I've got a couple things I just want to talk about. I know that Doug Chambers has done an excellent job with the completion of the sidewalk job there on DeQuesta Drive. I've heard a lot of great comments from a lot of residents on how well it was handled, from obviously you knocking on the doors and letting them know that we were coming, and then just the overall construction quality that everyone that the contractor did. So great job coming on our budget by quite a bit. Is always greatly, you can tell it's well managed. So good job there. Also want to recognize the chief, police chief. Got a comment from one of his officers and some of the going above and beyond. And I thought you did obviously a great job of recognizing those two officers and doing it in a way that was special. And I really do appreciate it. Two great officers and well deserved. Also want to just touch base on a couple of things that came up on the workshop, and I want to have a recommendation or a suggestion for the council as well. We were talking about having that a one-time payout for the non-union employees, and I was commenting more of trying to encourage that we keep it at a cost of living increase. I did find out that there is a particular policy that addressed this issue. And I'm just to be clear, I'm against just creating new solutions and going beyond a policy that's already been created. I would be in favor of adjusting the policy as necessary so that we don't have to keep doing these one-time events going forward over and over. And so I'd like to continue to look at that policies and make those corrections. I'm not opposed to paying the employees if that is under the current policies where it makes sense, not just one-time payouts. And in addition, The other thing that where that one-time payout is coming is funding for the Village of Tequesta and the Tequesta Fest. Again, I understand why Tequesta Fest might not happen, and that's due to the state and COVID, and I don't disagree with that. What I have a problem with is that's one big event that we give back to our residents, and now we're no longer giving back to our residents. And that's where I have a concern. I think the money should come from somewhere else. And if we were going to spend $50,000 for the Tequesta Fest, and now we're going to spend $20,000, $30,000 on other events, I still think we should keep that $20,000 and either spend it towards something that the village residents can utilize, or we add that back to the unassigned fund balance where we still are falling short to our own policy that was created many years ago. And we're now year 3 or 4 where we're short. So as a result, I know that we have a workshop coming up for term limits and districting. I would rather recommend that we get the budget completed and that we take that time and utilize it for the budget conversation so we can get the budget wrapped up for the village. And obviously the term limits and districting is not going to have an impact this year. And I think we should push that instead of, and talk more about the budget. So that's just a motion that I'd like to bring up to the council.
Well, it's not on the agenda at this time, so I don't believe that we're going to accept a motion on this, but I believe that your recommendations that we discuss further the CPI increase, and there's a lot that goes with that. Once again, it's not on the agenda, so I would rather we wait until the budget meeting. I think your suggestion that we have a budget meeting instead, or the workshop is now a budget workshop, I think that's a better idea. And at that time, we can address those issues.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm stating.
All right, good. Thank you.
So we would rather change the meeting from term limits and districting to a budget workshop. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I recommend.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add to my comments, I've been serving on the Economic Development Committee for the Palm Beach North Chamber. And we recently, they did a presentation for a disaster resilience task force. And I volunteered to learn more about that with the chair, John Carr. What that is a committee, a subcommittee of the Economic Development Committee, where we're looking into how resilient a municipality is, not only just from the municipality itself, but also the industries and, pharmacies and banks and grocery stores and hardware stores, how resilient they are. It's a project that's being led by the Tropicana president that's, has multiple logistics history and dealing with hurricanes and being resilient for his own company. If it's the pleasure of the council, I'd like to continue down that road, have them do a presentation with Jeremy and myself to see if it's something that the village would like to continue and maybe participate in being one of Palm Beach County North's only resilient communities.
The only thing I would say, Kyle, is if there's going to be a presentation, I think it should be to the entire council, not just to you and Jeremy. This would be a full council determination as to whether we want to proceed or not.
Yeah, and just to be clear, is I'm the only one that's seeing it. Thought it'd be good for Jeremy to see it, and if he thinks it makes a lot of sense, and I still think it makes a lot of sense for everyone to see it, that we will have them bring it to a council meeting.
Okay.
All right, that sounds good. Anything else, Kyle?
I'm good, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Brandon.
I'm pretty good for right now.
All right, thank you. And let's see, who else do we have? Oh, Bruce, Councilmember.
I just want to say that I thought the guy had a lot of candor in explaining the situation that came up with the problems and stuff with the new meter system inside the city. Me being a contractor, I was a little bit more sympathetic, in what happened. I think that they've responded extremely well in rectifying the situation. And it sounds like to me that they're right on top of it. We've got a lot of energy and stuff from the upper management of the company. So I think that they're doing everything within their means and abilities and stuff to get us up and running as quickly as possible and not incurring any additional expense to the city. Obviously, it's extremely frustrating for a lot of the citizens of the city of Cuesta that had to go through some of the trials and tribulations of their issues and stuff they incurred with the problems and stuff. But all in all, I think the guys, stepped up to the plate and did a really good job. And that's all I really have to say.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring you up to speed on the resolution committee that I sat in on today, the League of Cities. Our number 5, the COVID relief, we were looking to see if we could addend the resolution to be sure that fund pension shortfalls and capital improvement projects were not included. That was received with a resounding no. They wanted it as broad as possible, and as several people said, they believe that the municipalities should be able to use the funding as they see best, serves their community, and of course we could do the same. Someone else mentioned, I thought this may make more sense. The CARES Act is pretty clear about what you can fund, and because this money is essentially believing it to be a part of the CARES Act or believing it to be from the federal government in some way, that they would have the same regulations that would be attached to that. But there was not one person that was interested in what we were hoping they would do. The second thing, the broadband infrastructure, again, at this point, I believe that their resolution is just about getting it. They really didn't want to get into control, all those things that we were looking at. So we basically, that's kind of where we were. That was it. Finally, over the last month or so, we've had a couple of very serious events within the village, unfortunate events that involved our public safety personnel, our fire and our police, and Pastor Paul. And the feedback that I have received is that they could not have been more accommodating, more professional, more compassionate, and how much the people that were involved in these things appreciated it. I just wanted that to bring that to everyone's attention. All right, let's move on now to our standing reports and Village Attorney Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a report tonight. I'll be happy to answer any questions that the council may have on anything that's on your mind, though.
Anything for Keith? All right, item 14, manager's report, which I believe we've received, but Jeremy, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, you have the monthly reports that includes the financial as well as department usage and service reports for your viewing. The reports do include some impacts to COVID, financial impacts. I know occasionally I do get questions with those. We are closely monitoring those impacts, daily or weekly. I know finance is always giving me an update, and I ask quite a few questions. So Monday we do have the term limits and districting, but we will switch that to a budget workshop and try to get something on the agenda and get that out first thing tomorrow. Kyle stole a little bit of my thunder, but I did want to thank Doug for all of his work on that project. I mean, as a project, at least from my side, it was one of the smoothest projects I've seen, and staying on time and staying within budget. And I know Doug and his whole team, somebody was out there, quite a bit. I know when they, moved some sod around and irrigation, his crews was out there fixing it. And so I applaud Doug and his team out there. With that, that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Jeremy?
Yeah, I think, Jeremy, I had a chance to talk with Matt about the work that was done, and the work was, was very good. However, we talked about the fact that it did not address or did not encompass swales, which had been a big issue along Cuesta Drive. We talked about the rationale behind that, but I think that's something that we need to have some further discussion on. And if we can work it into this workshop on Monday, I'd like to have that addressed with respect to the rationale, how permitting was done, a number of other issues that have come up. So if we could factor that in, if not at Monday's workshop, then the one that follows that. So.
Just curious from council, do we want to stick with just a budget workshop on Monday, and then we can address what you're talking about at our next regularly scheduled workshop, Frank? Is that okay?
Yeah, if we don't have time to address it Monday, that's fine with me.
Jeremy, I did have a question for you. You've now been asking us to come in individually to review the budget. That's kind of, I've never done that before, which is fine, but I was curious what you were considering. And now that we are going to have a full budget workshop on Monday, can we just do it there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the whole thought was, we were going to, the next possible budget workshop that we were talking about was the 1st of September, with approval coming in the next meeting in September. And so, I was very concerned about the timing and making sure everybody was on board with the budget. So I was just really trying to line up and communicate as best as possible. But if we're going to have a meeting Monday, that'll work perfectly.
Okay. Any other questions for Jeremy? All right, and in the interest of time, we have received reports from Police Chief Medina, Fire Chief Trube, and Matt Hammond. Are there any questions? They all sent their reports to us. We've seen them, but I was wondering if council had any questions for any of them.
I do have a question for Chief Medina, if he's available.
Brad, is he on?
I'm looking for him now.
He is there.
Yeah, he should be unmuted now.
Yes, sir.
So, question for you in the aspect of, I know since I've been on the council, there's been maybe three, but maybe 4 different hires of police officers. And I know at least 3 of those officers are no longer with us in the last year and a half. And so I'm just want to have a better understanding with regards to that hiring process and then the training process. I know you've put a lot of effort in probably both, and I just want to, understand that better. So to me, there's something not right there, and I don't know what it is, or maybe there are 3 different one-off situations. I'm pretty familiar with all 3, but I want to just understand where you're coming from.
So, first off, let's talk about the process. The process is a 2-interview panel. First, it's done by members of the police department, which includes command staff as well as Pastor Paul, and or sometimes Amber Krause, who's our in-house secretary. The second round consists of myself, at times Assistant Chief McGrew or Lieutenant Pike, and Marlene Reed, who is our HR director. And they'll go through, if you qualify past the first round, you go to the second round, and we dig a little deeper into the person. Once that's complete, and we find the perfect fit where we believe, based on interviews, again, you have 1-hour interviews to judge people. We then, if we offer them the job, we do a background investigation that's conducted by Detective Dan Wachowski. Once that's complete and they are now on board, we have what's called the Field Training Officers Program, which is ran by Sergeant Blanc. They're introduced to our policies, our procedures, everything in regards to the police department, expectations, where they need to be, what we expect of them. And they go through 4 phases of the FTO program. Once they're complete upon that, they're still under probation. They're on probation for 1 year. In that year, you get to see a lot more of that person, again, in any job, not only law enforcement. You get an hour of interviews, another hour of interviews. You really don't know the work ethic and everything that's involved with that. FTO, you'll be able to get a sense of where they are, any deficiencies that they have. We work with them to ensure that we get them up to speed, any resources that they need. There's ongoing training. They'll go to different FTOs officers. Once that's complete, like I said, they're on a 1-year probation. I'm trying to think of which 3 officers you're talking about. There was one recently that did not meet the criteria. That individual, we tried numerous times to get them up to speed. And oftentimes, what I will tell you in law enforcement, or I think in any business, the bigger travesty is to hold on to something that at the end of it isn't going to be there. We output so many resources to someone, but just to hold someone because, hey, they've gone this far, honestly, it's a disservice to the village and the residents. This one individual obviously just didn't have what it took to be able to request a police officer. I had all the supervisors give their input. They collectively came to the same assessment that ultimately was put on my desk and saying, it's just not working out. We tried to train that individual during the course of it, and unfortunately, they just didn't take to the training. So that individual, we had to go. Other officers, the one that I know left us after a year. I think he was a good officer, but by the same token, I'd be dishonest if I say he was a perfect officer. The reality is there were issues within that hire. Still, had some great characteristics of being a police officer, and just wanted to do a little bit more than the village of Tequesta, meaning he wanted to do narcotics and other avenues of policing. We had a frank conversation about that, and the individual said he thought he could do a small town department and it just wasn't a right fit for him. So I actually helped him go elsewhere with one of my connections because I honestly think that he'd be a good officer somewhere else. I just didn't feel that what he wanted out of it after a year is what he was going to be able to get from here, meaning that he wanted to do search warrants, narcotics arrests, and other things. Not saying that the work isn't here, it's just at a slower pace than it would be in a bigger municipality. So, it obviously is the process itself flawless. There isn't any process that isn't, but I can't tell you it's not an easy decision to let someone go. But at the end of the day, and I said this earlier, it's bigger than Gus Medina or the police department. This is about our residents that we serve. And if I don't feel that it's the right fit for what our residents deserve, then they're going to have to go elsewhere.
If I just add a little bit to that, so I ultimately, from the village manager standpoint, I sign off on all of them. I don't think the ones that I've seen, across the board, I don't know there's one specific instance, but we can evaluate our processes as we go, and I don't think there's one outlying instance that we're having an issue with, but we can go back and look at that. But from the village manager standpoint, I've seen some of the ones that you're talking about, and I think I think the chief has made a decision that's in the best interest of the village.
Yeah, I'd like to add something to that too. All of us have been in business, all of us have been responsible for being in leadership and bringing people on board. And particularly in the law enforcement area, which I don't have a great deal of expertise in, but having spent a lot of time talking with a variety of police chiefs, including Chief Medina, it's more critical than ever, given the environment we're in, that we get the right person, the right fit. And we've had situations in the past where we've had officers that went beyond that 1 year and there were difficulties, and then trying to shed yourself or correct that difficulty becomes inordinately more difficult after the fact than it does if you can address it and identify it in that first 12-month period. So I think that the process that the chief has in place is fair from all the discussions I've had, and is reasonable. And I think it saves us heartache further on down the line, and it ensures that we've got good quality people on board. And I think if you look at our police force across the board, we've got great people, but they also have to be able to measure up to our expectations. And if their interests take them elsewhere, or if they're unable to fit comfortably within that chain of command, then they do need to look elsewhere. And I support the chief and the actions he's taken.
Yeah, Chief, I appreciate you you filling me in on that, your perspective there. I guess the concern I have, the reason I'm just bringing it up is because I know it's a lot of work to train an employee. I know it takes a lot of time to get the right people. And when I went into the swearing in of all three of the officers I'm thinking about, we had comments from our HR director, we had comments from you and from everybody else that these were perfect employees for the Village of DeQuesta. Great. I mean, everyone's gonna get to know them and they're gonna be great. One of them was terminated from Palm Beach County, or Palm Beach Police Department, and we hired them on. We knew that they weren't necessarily maybe a strong officer, but still had the ability to be a good officer in the Village of DeQuesta. And I'm just concerned that we didn't take the time for maybe that particular one. And again, I haven't seen anything with regards to the steps that you took for the training side and the time put in there with, write-ups, follow-up. I'm just concerned that there might have been a surprise when that officer was terminated. And that might just be based on the individual too. I know you guys do a great job. I know that we have a great safety record here. And I just want to take a look at that overall hiring process and maybe spend some extra time with you to really understand how that works. So I appreciate you taking the time to share that.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. Sorry, Mayor. Like anything, we're always taking a look at it, seeing how we can improve, how we can get it better. But I will tell you in particular about the one officer you're talking about a tale of two cities, and that officer was given an opportunity after not completing FTO somewhere else. Our officer of the year this year was someone that had a similar issue in Jupiter, and you see where he is with support and with training and just wanting to do better. The one thing that we can't train and we can't teach is you have to want to do better and be better. And the reality is, through a course of a year, we honestly get to see a good picture of, is this person has the best interest in the village? I think the travesty would be to hold an employee for 25 years that ultimately was subpar at best. So
I would 100% agree with that philosophy.
Chief, just a quick, who do you answer to?
Jeremy Allen, the village manager, ma'am.
Do you answer to me?
No, ma'am. I do with that. I answer to all the residents. So in that regard, yes, ma'am.
But you do not answer to me. And I don't tell you how to run a police department because I'm not a police officer.
No, ma'am.
Correct?
Correct, ma'am.
Thank you. And Jeremy, you were a part of these decisions as well. You were part of this.
That's right. And I think we can look at those processes. We can, discuss them.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
Well, the comment is saying that he wants to look at those processes. I'll sit down with the chief and we'll, make sure if there's something that we can tweak or, but I have been a part of those processes. I have not seen any issues in the three that I've come across from there. But we can go back and look at further. It's always good to examine every process we have. Through those processes, that I've been through, we haven't had an issue, but we'll take a look at it. It's always good to look at every process we have.
Okay, thank you.
I have two questions, if you don't mind, Mayor.
Of course.
Chief, have I ever told you how to run your business?
No, you're inquiring.
And then Chief, do council members have your cell phone, and do they ever call you when there's a concern with a police scenario?
What I found is honestly, council people will call other officers and whoever's working on duty. So in that regard, I get calls from the manager.
So you're saying council members don't call you?
If you all call, it's, if you guys call, I'm trying to think offhand, but to direct, no, if there's a concern, you all may call me. Yeah.
Would you recommend that if there was a concern with regards to safety of local residents, that the council members call 911 or the non-emergency number?
Of course, absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor.
All righty, then we can now move on to our regular agenda. Old business, we are going to address items both 15 and 16, so I will not be asking for a vote. However, would the attorney please read item 15, ordinance 30-20, second reading?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 03-20, ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of Chapter 78 zoning, Article 10, off-street and on-street parking and loading regulations, Section 78704C, control of access to streets, to revise construction standards for accessway driveways in the village, providing that each and every other section, subsection of Chapter 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date and for other purposes. This is second reading.
Thank you. This is a public hearing and it is now open for council comment. Hearing none, we are going to move to old business item 16 for discussion first before I open it up for the public. Would you please read item 16, ordinance 04-20?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 04-20, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of Chapter 14, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 1, in general, creating an entirely new Section 14-6 to be entitled Required Association Building Plan Approval, to require the approval of any property owner association with jurisdiction over the subject property to approve proposed construction in accordance with its applicable documents prior to the applicant being issued a building permit, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 14 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date and for other purposes. This is second reading.
This is now a public hearing, now open for council comment. Hearing none, we will now go to the public. Brad, will you please open up the lines? And Lori, do you have any cards?
I do not have any cards for either item.
Thank you.
The public is open.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have any comments on items 15 or 16 on the agenda? All right, let's close it to the public, please. Are we ready?
You may proceed, Mayor.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve item 15, ordinance 3-20?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, do I have a motion to approve item 16, ordinance 04-20?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Moving on to new business, we will be addressing items 17, 18, 19, and 20. We will start with item 17, which is a special exemption use 3-20. This has to do with the new community center.
Mayor, this is Attorney Davis. If I can jump in briefly, items 17 and 18 are both quasi judicial. So I'm not sure who's going to be speaking to the council on these items. I will need to swear them in before they present. I see Mr. Herring with his hand up. I'm going to assume he's going to be speaking. I see Mr. Gonzalez and Ms. Zacharias with their hands up. So that is everybody that I see. Is there anybody else? All right, then. Do each of you swear or affirm under penalties of perjury that your testimony to the village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Brad, are they unmuted?
Yeah, I'm getting to them. Sorry, you're gonna have to tell me their names.
Don Herring, Nilsa Zacharias, and Rick Gonzalez.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sorry, you said Mr. Zakarian?
Nilsa.
Oh, Nilsa. All right,
I
everybody's
do.
unmuted. Sorry about that, Nelson.
Not a
Okay.
problem.
I think I heard yeses from all three. And then
Yes.
to keep this streamlined, let me ask council if any of you have had any ex parte discussions regarding either agenda items 17 or 18. You can disclose those for both items at this time.
No.
No.
Then thank you, Mayor. We can proceed with item 17.
All right, this is special exception use, as I said. Who is going to be presenting this, Nielsen?
Yes. Yes, Madam Mayor. Well, good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. The application that is in front of you is the special exception use to build a one-story 14,799 square foot recreational facility on the Recreation and Open Space zoning district. This proposed building will replace the existing community center that was built in 1963. Last year, Community Development prepared a needs assessment report. This is the report that was prepared last year. This report presented detailed information regarding the existing conditions of the building, the current village demographics and socioeconomic, and also presented the extended outreach process to communicate with residents. The report also concluded that the village of Tecuesta changing demographics and the variety of income levels supports the need for programs that can benefit young children, working parents, active adults, school-age children, and our senior residents. Also, the report highlighted that the comprehensive plan adopted by the council in 2018, objective 1.1, that requires that the village maintain community and neighborhood parks and facilities meeting the current and the future needs of all age groups in Tecuesta. Specifically, the report also presented a detailed analysis of the deficiencies of the existing building. So the findings presented in the report is strongly suggesting to build a new facility that can accommodate the growing needs of the village residents. So in terms of that, the applicant is here and they have a presentation for the council. Mr. Don Hearing.
Nielsa, thank you very much. If it's okay, I will share my screen. And then I also will be presenting these items collectively as opposed to individually, if that's okay with the council.
That's fine.
Great. So I will share my screen with you. And Madam Mayor, before I start, I just want to thank you for this opportunity, but it was really such a pleasure as I joined your meeting this evening that you took the time to stop and have a prayer. We miss that so much in America today. So I just want to commend the council, and I just pray that you continue to carry on that legacy as the council continues to move forward in history. It's very refreshing, and just wanted to thank you for your leadership in that regard. So with that, Madam Mayor and council members, my name is Donaldson Hearing, and I'm here tonight with my good friend and colleague, Mr. Rick Gonzalez, who is with REG Architects, who we've had the opportunity to partner with and work with your village staff in developing the plans for the proposed community center at Constitution Park. And Nielsa, thank you very much. Of course, I get to see you quite often. It's always a pleasure. Also with me in my office here this evening is George Missimer, who is the project planner, who has been working with Rick's office and with Nielsa's office in processing the application on behalf of the Village of Tequesta. So the project site is up here on the screen. And so as Nielsa indicated, this request is a request on behalf of the village. And the plan has been for a long time to look at what needs to be done to replace the existing community center. As the council is probably well aware, that there have been a number of different sites that have been evaluated over the past 24 months. And the conclusion came down that this building has outlived its useful life. And truly, it is probably the best spot and location to rebuild a new community center to meet the needs of the Village of Tequesta for the next several decades. So the site is located right at just south of or north of Tequesta Drive on the west side of Seabrook in Constitution Park. And literally the proposed project is being very sensitively nestled in the existing location where the existing building is located. Here's a few visuals. And of course, I know many of you are very close to this. Of course, Constitution Park for any of our residents of Tequesta is a real gem. But you can see the building that's up on the top left. It's an older building, flat roof building, certainly not of the caliber and quality of what the village has to offer today. The park, of course, is a spectacular gem for any of the residents. And so fitting this in really is just a great addition to what already exists on the park. Down on the bottom right, you have a view of the street there on Dover. And that is an area where we're looking at introducing some on-street parking, which is certainly very community and neighborly friendly, and will be certainly convenient to the residents, as well as a new kind of an entry portal per se that will enter the park from the south. As Nielsa pointed out, the request is multiple. The site plan actually will come before you, I think, on the 20th, I think a week from today. Today, we're looking forward to presenting the special exception request and the variance request, but it is for about a 15,000 square foot building to replace the existing village hall. No change of use, but really demolishing the existing building, refurbishing the infrastructure, the parking, revising the landscape, and making this a state-of-the-art facility moving forward for the next decade. As Nielsa pointed out, that while the proposed use is considered a permitted use, all uses in the recreational and open space category do require a special exception approval from the village council. So we are here tonight requesting that. And then we are requesting a variance approval to enable us to have a reduction in 5 parking spaces from the required number of 60. We're proposing 55 spaces. We do know the village has been in contact with the church, First Baptist, and while there is not a formal agreement in place, there's certainly an agreement in principle that enables the residents certainly to park there and take advantage of that additional parking that exists not only there, but within the commercial areas immediately to the east. The building consists of about 14,800 square feet of total area. That includes about a 500 square foot, 439 square foot porch. It's in the rear that looks onto the Constitution Park. Gymnasium, about 7,100 square feet, and then multi-purpose uses, about 7,167 square feet. The existing building is only about 7,000 square feet. And of course, that will be demolished. As far as the tabular data, the parking that's required is 60 spaces. We're providing 55. Of course, this is in an area also where a number of residents do walk. And there's lots of open space, so we substantially exceed the code as outlined within Nielsen's report. In terms of the construction, we're looking to hopefully obtain a permit for this in very early first quarter of 2021 and be completed by early 2022. So perfect time to start from a construction standpoint. COVID will pass. We will be back together again. And so this will be a perfect time to come back together. As Nielsen noted also in your report, you've done a needs assessment. And so what we're doing is really carrying out the requirements of your comprehensive plan, your goals and objectives and policies in order to meet the needs of your population as it continues to evolve within the community. Of course, we all have been well aware that over the past decade, a lot of younger families have been moving into the village. And so this just further facilitates you providing and meeting the needs of your population. The site itself, we've tried to utilize the existing infrastructure. And so there are some existing parking areas that we're redoing, as well as providing some angled parking on Dover Road, providing 15 angle spaces there that help us meet the needs of your residents. So this is a black and white rendition of the site plan. I'll show you the colored rendition as we move forward. So you can see the new community center in context to the park. So it fits in there very well. We're just modifying the path that's most closest to the site. We are facilitating or making this facility so that it can accommodate a future generator, so we could provide for resiliency. A generator is not included in the first phase of the development, but it could very easily be provided. So Rick has designed that into the program. We're reworking the parking area in the front so that it's more consistent with your code, providing for the required ADA and handicap accessibility to the site. And then down on the south side along Dover Road, you can see where we're adding some angled parking, which really is very, very convenient. And I'm sure a lot of the residents probably will park here and walk right into the beautiful side of Constitution Park. There's a new entry portal, which I'll show you, a little entry gate to make it very community and pedestrian friendly. So now zooming into more of the details of the site plan, you can see the building, and I'll get into a little bit more of the individual uses that you're probably already aware of. But there is a gymnasium component, just about a little over 7,000 square feet. There's a common area component that actually provides access all the way through the building to the park, exterior porch, and then a number of community rooms that are multi-purpose rooms that can be used for a variety of purposes to meet the needs of the village. So here's a more of an oblique rendering, and I would be remiss not to say that we have also thought about opportunities to provide for more future covered shade areas on some of the sport courts. That's not included as a part of this first phase, but is included as a part of the master plan. So this is a three-dimensional rendering, kind of looking from a bird's eye view. We're working to save the vegetation that exists along the parking lot, as well as within the park. You can see this vertical element that pops up. Rick has handled that very sensitively from an architectural perspective. That's the gymnasium portion. It needs a little higher, but yet we've done a lot of things where we've introduced a mansard roof, which enables us to deal with our some of our infrastructure that needs to be on the roof, but also so we keep the scale of this building in keeping with the scale of the park as it is today. The overall style is a Florida style. Here's another rendering from the front, very much so in keeping with the village. Rick's done a really beautiful job with some authentic detailing and really working closely to with the roof, the broken pitch roof of the mansard really fits well. The popped up area for the entrance through the atrium, and then you can see in the back the gymnasium, but really with a very careful attention to our neighbors, the detailing, the outriggers, the use of the horizontal siding to really help it fit the scale of the overall site. You know, going to the interior, and you all have seen this, so I'm not going to go into it in great detail. But again, that pop-up area here at the lobby. So when you walk in, reception area, very, very open and fluid. The use of kind of an oval element as the lobby helps spin you around, bring you out to the back if you're going to the back. Office space, which is highlighted in the kind of the darker green, and then the pink areas are these multi-purpose areas that have been incorporated. So Rick's done a really great job in developing a great design for the community, even from the back. Now, this is not showing all the beautiful landscaping that I've designed. That really scales it down. But the idea is that it fits in very, very well to the community. The porch creates a very welcoming environment as we approach the park. So it's truly four-sided architecture, a lot of thought. You can see a lot of glass, not only the high glass on the gymnasium from a environmental and LEED perspective to bring natural light into the environment, but a lot of low glass where we have a lot of the shaded area where we can come into the site. And then I guess lastly, as we become close to the conclusion, that not only did we think of what was happening on Seabrook, but also what's happening from a pedestrian perspective on Dover. We wanted to be very inviting, and so a nice little entry portal with a very, very simple trellis element. You'll see again some of that same detailing that Rick was able to articulate on the building itself with the trellis is brought out to the street. So we just try to unify and create these gateways that make it very much so pedestrian friendly. And so with that, Madam Mayor and Council, we would request your approval this evening on the special exception as well as the variance request. The site plan will come back before you again, but we've tried to give you an overall perspective. And on behalf of Rick and our REG team and George Lissimer, we are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Before we get started with that, I just want to mention that we have a separate item that addresses the 60 parking spaces. So that is item number 18. I'm glad that we put it all together in this package, but for council's edification, we've got two agenda items addressing this. Any questions for Mr. Herring?
Yeah, I've got one. You mentioned something about the generator that's going to be coming in a separate phase. Will it be pre-wired to accept a generator? And if so, have y'all gone far enough into researching the type of generator that would be needed and making sure that it's going to have the adequate and the right type of wiring to accept a generator to run that size of facility?
Good. Well, I will first show you the location, and then I will punt to Mr. Gonzalez and the village staff to talk about that. But I think that the answer is yes to all of your questions. The generator is going to be located right here in the northwest corner of the site. Of course, it will be screened, and I know that it has been sized so that it could accommodate this facility, not only to operate it for normal uses, because this will be a new facility. It will be designed to meet the current wind standards, so it also could serve the purpose of the more other resiliency during storm events. But hey, Rick, you get to earn your money here tonight. Tell us about the generator.
And by the way, I do agree that landscaping complements buildings. That's very important. We work hand in hand. Yes, Mr. Councilman, we haven't gotten into that phase. We've just been authorized by Jeremy to start the construction documents. So while we're very aware of that, we do that in all our buildings. We've done a half a dozen of these gymnatorium community centers. In fact, we just opened one down at St. Jude's in Boca. Just finished, and so we're familiar with the needs of generators for the building so that you can have emergency services.
So we will put the switchgear in place with the original construction, so you can add the generator later, right, Rick?
That's part of the study, to look at the details for that. But yes, you'll be able to do that. And the other thing that we can do that we've done in other buildings too is have the electrical panel work set up too, so that if you had, if you didn't have a permanent generator, but say you had one on wheels, I know FP&L and other people use that, you can come and plug, you can plug a generator in until you're ready to purchase a generator at a later date.
Great. And I think that was part of the question, is it ready? Will it be wired and ready?
Yes,
Which
well,
certainly makes good sense.
Yeah, the budget numbers, we're getting really good budget numbers right now, and I think we'll be able to afford that.
But one more question, how will it be powered? What type of fuel would be used for powering the generator? And the reason why I ask is because if it requires a tank and stuff, I mean, will the tank be buried somewhere? I mean, because if you have to come back later and bury a 1,000-gallon or a 2,000-gallon tank, I mean, it might be very disruptive to the existing building, not building, but the sidewalks, etc. I mean, I know it might be premature in asking this question, but I wouldn't want to have to go back in and try to dig in place a 2,000 or 3,000-gallon tank later on once everything has been completed. And I don't know what phases you're talking about, so I may be premature in asking this question.
Good question. And what we'll do is we're going to have a list of add alternates to the bid. Contractors are really hungry, so if we're lucky enough that we can slip it in, then we'll slip it into the cost and hopefully get it done. But we'll definitely price it out, Councilman, so that we can determine with Jeremy whether we can do it now or whether we have to do it later.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Rick, this is Frank Tiamber. I've had obviously the pleasure of working closely with you and Christine and your whole team. And
thank you.
I just want to thank you guys for all the work you've done. You guys have done a great job. I would echo what Councilman Prince said, though, is I think that the electrical paneling, the wiring, and the tank should absolutely be part of the initial phase of the building, because as the councilman indicated, we don't want to go back later and have to dig up or disrupt things in order to bring the generator in. So as you said, in the current environment, hopefully we're going to get some good bids and we'll be able to work that in. I think that's almost an absolute.
Thank you, Councilman.
Rick and Don, I just want to appreciate you guys done a great job. I know it's been a long process, and I know we're getting close to actually maybe breaking ground here soon. I mentioned this in the past. I don't know if you guys, I don't think you were on the previous meetings when I mentioned this, but we call this Constitution Park, and I think it'd be wise to have some type of a monument that actually has the Constitution on it, on one of the outside walls somewhere. So just want to throw that out there. Hopefully we continue down that road.
I certainly would support that. I appreciate people that respect the Constitution.
Excellent suggestion. We'll definitely take a look at that at Vice Mayor. I think that's a really good suggestion.
Anything further? Thank you, Don. Thank you, Rick. We're all excited. Can't wait to get going. All right, let's move down to item 19, which is to approve a request for a temporary trailer.
Wait, do we need to vote? Mayor, do we need to vote on 17 and 18?
No. I have to go through all four. We're going to go to this public, remember?
Sorry.
I know it's okay. Believe me, I had to practice this several times, so I wasn't calling for votes too soon. Approve the request for the temporary trailer to be located at 465, which I understand is actually at Station 11. Jeremy, did you want to take this?
I can. It's a temporary trailer. Will be located at Station 11. It'll run parallel with the building. This temporary trailer, let me make sure we're talking, there's two of them. So this one is just the site of the temporary trailer. It's temporary, so it doesn't We just need to get council's approval to do that. You guys have the two letters in your packet, as well as the temporary structure ordinance that we have in there. So we'd be approving the location of that. And then I can quickly touch on number 20 is actually the contract for the temporary trailer to be parked there. It's a 24-month contract with the group. And so you guys have that in there, and I can answer any questions. It might be easier that way.
Jeremy, the only question I had was on the contract. It calls for 24 months, but if we were to put this in place, let's say September 1, and if the goal is to have this rec center open by December 31st of next year, possibly sooner if we can accelerate it, it seems to me that 18 months would be sufficient for the trailer. If we had to extend, we could always extend. So that was my only question as to why it was 24 months, unless there's a provision we can return it sooner and we'll get a credit.
So the reason why it's 24 months is the pricing. You know, the way that they work out the pricing, it worked out the best at 24 months. You know, if we did like a 20-month, I think they agreed that they would keep the pricing at 20 months. You start getting lower than that, then of course the price would go up based on the months. So we felt it was best to do the 24 months, and we have talked to them recently about maybe a 20-month, and they've agreed to keep those prices for 20 months. And then if we went over, we could keep similar rates for a month or 2 months. But if we extended past that, then our prices would go up 25%. So they said that's why it'd be best to do a longer lease, because the prices go significantly up after that lease period.
Are you saying we
I
could?
think they referenced 25%.
So are you saying we could do 20 months at the $15.55 a month rate?
We could do. I think that's what they said, that we could do 20 months at that rate.
Okay, because that would carry us until April of 2022. That would seem to be more than sufficient.
Okay. We can go down to 20 months and keep a similar rate. I believe Greg got an agreement with them earlier today as we start asking those questions about shorter periods.
Okay.
So in your motion, you may make that if you want to, and that'll give us the ability to go ahead and enter in that contract for 20 months.
Okay. When we get to the voting portion of that, I will do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions about
I
the
have
trailer?
one. There's no room in that building for the team?
The building is condemned.
Station.
The building is condemned.
No, not the rec center, the station where the building department is.
It's condemned.
The building would have to be rehabilitated.
Yeah, the Station 11 building is I believe the quote to get that one so somebody can be in is like $800,000. The roof is no good. The electrical, I mean, it had to bring it up to code, very similar to the recreation center, and that's why it's been sitting dormant for a while, is because the cost that it's going to take to bring it up to code.
Jeremy, are we currently storing anything in that building?
We do have some equipment. We don't have staff there. I mean, there's no personnel there. There is some items over in Station 11.
Any other questions? All right, let's take it to the public now. Lori, do you have any cards on these 4 items?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay, Brad, are you open?
I will unmute everyone. Now, I did get a note from somebody. I'm just going to give some instruction to the public. I can only send a request to unmute you, so it should pop up a prompt on your screen that you will have to approve in order for you to be unmuted if you wanted to speak. Otherwise, you can decline it and you will stay muted. So I will unmute everyone now.
Well, not everybody is up. Lori's here. Pike, Dunphy is there.
Chief, you're unmuted.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, do you have any questions for items 17, 18, 19, or 20? Doesn't appear to be. Brad, will you please close the lines again?
You may proceed, Mayor.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve item 17, SCU 3-20?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. May I have a motion for item 18, variance 4-20?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, ma'am.
Councilwoman Mrs. Brandon is muted.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Oh, I
Sorry,
see.
aye.
Aye, okay. And, all right, may I have a motion to approve item 19? That's for the request for the trailer.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And to approve the contract for the trailer, but limited now to 20 months. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yes, a motion to accept the contract with a 20-month rental period at the same rate that was originally quoted per month.
Thank you. All right, that's a motion. And
Yes.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. We're now going to move on to items 21, 22, 23, and 24. We're doing this obviously so we don't have to open up the lines every single item because we have to do that. So I'm trying to bundle them in some sense of order. So number 21 is to approve work authorization for the Beach Road water main replacement. I believe that this is Utilities Director Hammond, but you brought this to us at a workshop before, didn't you? Didn't we talk about this already? Got to get Matt.
Yes, Mayor, this has been brought before a couple times for various aspects. These next two items are the final to making the construction happen. The first one is the work authorization for construction services with Caleb Horn, and the second being the budget appropriation to fully fund the project.
That's item number 22, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Resolution 22-20. So we've just had an explanation for both. Any questions for Mr. Hammond? All right, let's move on to item 23, which is to approve a contract award for a trailer mounted valve and hydrant exerciser. Also, Mr. Hammond.
Yeah, I have water ready for this stretch of agenda items. The utilities department a while ago identified a need to purchase a trailer mounted valve and hydrant exerciser to use in maintaining over 1,500 valves and hydrants that are throughout the distribution system. Using each valve and hydrant manually is time and labor intensive activity. Takes up a lot of man hours by the water distribution team each. The trailer mounted valve and hydrant exerciser will improve the efficiency of the water distribution team and allow for that time savings to be spent on other needed utility maintenance and projects. To ensure the lowest possible price, this purchase was done through a request for quotes on June 1st, which resulted in 3 proposals being received from Duval Fleet, EH Walks, and Vermeer Southeast. After 3 quotes received, staff determined that Duval provided the lowest responsive quote, and as a result is requesting council to approve a purchase agreement in the amount of $72,765 with Duval Fleet. Council previously approved $90,000 in the fiscal year 20 budget for this purpose. Operating valves to make sure that they seat and are operational when you need them. It takes a lot of time for a small team, and it's something that's easy to put on the back burner when you're jumping from fire to fire. So It allows our guys to be able to do the work at a minimum at least once per year, freeing up time to be able to do other important projects, like the swale restoration we're doing in front of the house that flooded a couple months ago. Team shopped around. They got a good price. They didn't go overboard with any bells and whistles, and that's presented before you tonight.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions on this topic from council?
How long do you have the savings that you said in the time that the machine was saving man hours? How many man hours do you think it'll actually save you per year? And with that question, secondly, how long do you think it will take you to pay for the machine with the savings and the man hours?
Good question. So the savings is, I can just give you my best guess, as the maintenance, the time invested hasn't what it should have been in the past. Best guess, it's if the entire team worked on it, it's about a month's work just for the entire team. That's spread out through the year. I can't dedicate an entire to all seven to that for 1 month.
I apologize. I don't know if it's just me or not, but I can't hardly hear what you're saying.
Yeah, you're breaking up, Matt. You're breaking up.
Okay, I'll do the best I can. I'm on Wi-Fi here at Village Hall. I'm not sure how to improve that. Can you hear me better?
Now we can.
All right.
Hopefully it continues.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, I'd like for you to repeat that again. I really didn't hear very much of what you said at all.
Sure. My best guess, Councilmember Prince, it's about a month's worth of man hours, and that's for the entire team. So that'd be that'd actually be well, six guys on the team. That'd be 6 months man hours. If that maintenance activity was done completely as it's
Matt, I know we've had some issues with some valves that weren't properly maintained, and we've had workarounds. It might be interesting to maybe talk about the consequences of a failure to maintain the system properly and what that encompasses. Some valves freeze and they can't be unfrozen.
Yeah, certainly. We have valves in the system that date back to the 50s, and when those valves they're kind of like insurance. You don't necessarily think about them too much until you need them, but when you need them, you really need them. When you have a water break and you need to isolate a section of main, you're counting on those valves to be able to close and seat properly to be able to safely perform the work, and B, open back up. It's not uncommon to have a valve stem snap that's been frozen due to lack of use, and then you have a valve stuck in the closed position, and that reduces fire flow availability to the community.
And it also can affect the pressure at the plant, right? And then that has consequences, right? If you've got water that you've got a break and you've got leakage and you're losing significant amounts of water, doesn't that have an effect on the plant and the boil water notice potentially?
Well, if you have valves that don't operate, then you end up having to isolate a larger section of the village to be able to repair that break. So then you end up having what could have been a block that's out of water ends up being blocks, and hundreds of people that end up in the water.
Matt, as you know, this maintaining infrastructure has been a big thing for me in the aspect of these valves. I've been talking about them now for a year and a half now. My concern is that when we go through the process of exercising these 1,100 valves, that we are going to have issues and breaks, and making sure we're dealing with that accordingly is one thing. The second thing, are there any contractors out there that exercise valves where we could hire that contractor to do this work on an annual basis to continue to exercise these valves on an annualized basis?
There certainly is. There's as with anything, there's a cost to that. What you and that cost is you know, when you annualize that cost over the life of the the equipment that's being proposed, in our case, you end up coming out ahead. What you lose though with something like that, where instead of having our own team do that work, you have a contractor, you lose that knowledge of the system to where the guys are touching every valve. They know where they are. And when it comes time to when you need them to when there's water break and it's 2 a.m. in the morning, they know where that is. It's under this bush. It's you know, a couple feet off this sidewalk. But there's that institutional knowledge that you lose when they don't touch that equipment on a regular basis.
Then I agree. I think that's a great perspective. Appreciate you pointing that out. I would agree with that. What about the aspect of, as we go through and start, you know, working these valves and turning them on and off, you know, being ready to repair those when they do freeze up or break?
Yeah. One of the features to, so there's a couple pieces to that. One of the features to really any valve exerciser, including this one, is there is over torque protection that helps to minimize breaks, where you've got somebody with a manual valve key and they put a cheater bar on it, and then you snap in a snap. You know, so long as the limits are set correctly, that helps minimize that. But having the onboard contractors that we have, and also having the replacement valves on hand when there are things that we can handle, is going to be an important part of that process.
Any other questions on this topic? All right, let's move on to item 24, which is approve the contract award for Pine Tree Drive and Tequesta Bridge drainage improvements. Matt?
Several years ago, the village identified a need to improve the intersection at Tequesta Drive and Pine Tree Drive, where localized ponding takes place after each rain. In addition, there's some bank stabilization work that's needed down the northeast of the Tequesta. This project started and was shelved quite a while ago, but then was placed onto this year's budget to complete. We brought on board Mark Roos, who had initially started the design, on board consultants to complete the design permitting, which at the beginning of the summer. The project was advertised to bid on July 3rd, and as a result, we got 7 bids back, ranging from 771 to 335, 575, with the lowest bid submitted by Ferrer Construction out of Hopestown. Village staff reviewed all the bids submitted for completeness, and Mock Roos followed up on the references for Ferrer Construction to confirm they're qualified to complete the work. Based on this, it was determined that Ferrer Construction did provide the lowest responsible bid at $120,771. This was 25% below the engineer's cost estimate for the project. If approved tonight, the proposed project would be completed in January 2021.
Okay. Jeremy, I recall at this same area, aren't we going to have some work that Doug and Public Works will be doing at some point there?
Yeah, and I can maybe ask Doug to speak a little bit about it, but with as I understand it, with the stormwater improvements that we're doing, we haven't done any work there because of the stormwater improvements. And if we were to, you know, if we would have done anything with the sidewalk there and the crosswalk there, when Matt comes in there and his crews do their work, it would just been tearing it up. So I think there's going to be some synergy between the two projects in that when they do put back that area, that they can put it back to the way that, Doug had planned. But, and I can let Doug or Matt talk a little bit more about specifics, but that was the way that I understand it.
Yes, Mayor, there's a portion of asphalt that's obviously being replaced for this project. We worked with Doug during the design process, and the crosswalk and sidewalk portions of that are being put back to slightly different, an improved state that lines up with the future goals of that intersection.
All right, thank you. And that would be a different budget line item, Jeremy, is that correct? Do we have that in this year's budget or next year's budget?
Well, I think most of it's coming out of that project, because they were going to have to they're tearing it up anyways. They were going to have to put it back in place. So it's the same, it's all in one project, which, surprisingly still we're under 25%, what the estimated costs were originally without that. So I think it's a good synergy project between the two.
All right, thank you.
Jeremy, if I could just add to that, what we were going to also do in that area, once Matt completed this project, we were going to add a solar-powered push-button station in that crosswalk. Right now, we have the temporary sign in the middle of the road. So the goal would be, when Matt finishes that project, we put a solar-powered push-button station for folks that are crossing across the bridge there.
All right, good. Any other questions on this item from council?
That was my question I was going to ask. Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Brad, if you'll open the lines, and Lori, do you have anything on these items?
No, ma'am, I don't.
All right, thank you.
The lines are open.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any comments on items number 21 through 24. All right, doesn't look like it, Brad. Please put us all back together.
Okay, you're good to go.
All right, thank you. All right, we're getting there. I'm sure everybody feels the same way. Really looking forward to getting back in chambers so we can do this properly. All right, item 25, resolution 23-20. This has to do with fund balance for emergency stormwater pipe repair.
Mayor, we need the votes on the 21 through 20.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, thank you. Thank you.
And I'll need to read the title of 22 when you get there.
All right, great, wonderful. So may I have a motion to approve item 21?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Keith?
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 2220, resolution of the Village Council, Village of Quest, Florida, amending and increasing the 2019-2020 Water Utility Fund number 401 budget by increasing revenue and expenditure by $70,046 and appropriating fund balance in the amount of $70,454 to fully fund the Beach Road Water Main Replacement Project.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve item 22, resolution 22-20?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. May I have a motion to approve item 23?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. And item 24, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, now item 25, we're going to do 25 through 28. Keith, do you want to read the resolution first?
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 23-20, resolution of the Village Council, Village of Quest, Florida, amending and increasing 2019-2020 Stormwater Utility Fund number 403 budget by appropriating fund balance in the amount of $375 to fund emergency stormwater pipe repairs.
All right, let's see. Who wants to address this? I think we've heard about this already, as I recall. Jeremy, is there anything more that we need to see on this? This has been pre-discussed, I believe.
I believe so. I mean, we didn't want to put it on the consent agenda, even though we've talked about it and the
Right.
projects had been approved because it was $375,000. And I don't think anything of that balance should be consented without a conversation. But these projects were previously approved, and the work, most of the work I believe has been completed, or we're finishing up these. So it was emergency storm repair, so we had the authority to do it under the emergency procurement process.
All right. Any comments on this from council?
Just one quick comment regarding continuing to appropriate money out of the storm water utility. Obviously, this was an emergency and well needed, and I agree with the decision to repair that. With regards to the overall budget, how's that overall balance look for these types of emergencies?
I mean, I can give you a general, with this $375,000, it definitely changed our trajectory in the stormwater fund. I know that, we're, looking at a 5-year plan. Next year it doesn't leave a lot of meat in the bones as far as the reserves, and looking at that. So we are, we're looking at if, some of the projects that have built up that we need to get done, possibly issuing some debt and using the revenue sources from stormwater to help unclog some of those. But that $375,000 for the emergency repairs did change the trajectory of that fund.
Should we not use a portion of that $500,000 of the emergency fund that we threw in there for situations like this?
That wouldn't be my recommendation. I mean, I think that those emergency fund monies were, really set aside for hurricanes or, very special circumstances. Also those funds that we have for we'll say hurricane or emergency funds, were out of general fund and out of water utilities. There's $500,000 out of each of those. We did not contribute money out of the stormwater fund. So this would actually be a separate fund for those emergency funds that you're referring to.
I'm sorry, Jeremy, did you say you recommended to do it out of emergency or not?
No. I recommend not to do that.
I was gonna,
All right.
yeah, all right. I just wanted to be clear. I wasn't sure.
Vice Mayor, I can piggyback a little bit more on what Jeremy said. Hugh and I have worked together on confirming the fund balance on stormwater for this appropriation back in, recently as well as back when the emergency funds were requested, as well as these changes were incorporated into the most recent budget documents that's been presented for the proposed FY21 budget. We had to relook CIP. This has all been incorporated into that proposed FY21 budget.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
All right, anything further on that from council? Let's move on to item 26, which is the consideration of a grant writing service agreement. And that's yours, Jeremy.
So, I'm very excited about this one to have a potential. I know that Greg has utilized a company for some grant writing, but really, our directors do a amazing job. They really carry a lot of weight when, and so having somebody on, retainer on contract to be able to go out and look for grants for us, as well as write for those grants and track those grants for us will be a big help. We do have a local grant writer that I've spoken with and seen the resume, and I think it's a good partnership that we can have. I'm not sure, I can't tell if she's online right now, but she has done some work with the village. I see the sky's the limit as how we can utilize her for sponsorships and partnerships with the rec center and some of the events. So I see this as a good foot forward. I know that Doug's got a couple of things in the works for grant. Matt has a couple. We definitely like to see if there's some grants out there for fire and for equipment and, and trucks. So I think having somebody that can write grants for our directors for the village will pay for itself and then some, right off the bat. And you guys have this contract, you have the rates that are proposed. You'll see they're very, very reasonable. And so I see, us very benefiting a whole bunch from this process. I met with her. If you haven't met her, she's online now. I see her, Cindy McDonald. She's very energetic, and the crazy thing, she actually likes to write grants. So I haven't seen too many people like that. So I'm with enthusiasm, I recommend this contract.
I would also mention that I do know Cindy McDonald, and she has done work for the Tequesta Friends of Public Safety. And in addition to grant writing down the road, we can look at this, that she also has done some work with corporate sponsorship. And that may be something that we can take a look at after we get through the grant process.
One question, Jeremy. This is an area that we have councils before this one for many years have clamored for someone to be in this role. So I think this is a great thing. And we talked about this the last time around, but Greg has worked with somebody who's been very successful in helping him obtain grants. And I know the 2 grants that were referenced in the budget have both been approved. I believe there's 2 $50,000 grants that have already been approved. I think I asked you last time whether the intent was to continue to use the grant writer that Greg had used for specific projects related to parks and recreation and those types of activities. And would this individual then be utilized for other types of activities? So I'm looking for some clarification on that as to, are we going to maintain both relationships? Is there going to be a focus in the way I've described it? Or is this going to change the dynamics completely?
No, I don't think it'll change the dynamics. I think there's going to be plenty of grants for everybody. I know that Greg is comfortable with his grant writer. I've met his grant writer for Parks and Rec, and I know he's already got a couple in the fire. I don't think that has to change. I think we got enough targets for Cindy that I think we'll be fine. I mean, I know between utilities, public works, public safety, I think there's enough grants out there that we can keep her busy, and there's enough rec needs out there to keep Greg's grant writer, if as long as he wants to keep utilizing them.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we were clear on the direction and how that was going to work. Okay.
I'll just say Cindy McDonald is a great advocate for the village of Tequesta, and we are very lucky to have her joining the team and helping us out. So thank you, Cindy, for willing to participate and help us.
Any other comments? Is Cindy there? Do you want to wave? Does she have her picture up?
Yeah, she's up. I can't hear her, so I'm not sure if her volume is working, but she is saying stuff. She is waving. She's smiling. So yeah, now she got both hands up.
10 fingers.
Well, as Jeremy mentioned, lots of energy, really exciting to have her on board. It's great. Okay, let's move on to item 27. And this is the approve the purchase and sale agreement for Harbor Road North Water Main with Wesley Olden. And that was a lot of paperwork that I saw coming across on that. Does somebody have a summary that could tell us a little bit about why we are doing this or being asked to do this?
Yes, ma'am. This is and this is my last item for the night, and I'm tapping out unless you have any questions for me. So this one's kind of a unique one. In the late 70s, the village and Wesley Oldham, was it 1914, began discussions about the construction of a water main to serve Harbor North, which would be paid for by Mr. Oldham. This resulted in correspondence from the village in 1977 that stated that future properties wishing to connect to this proposed water main would be required to pay Mr. Oldham their pro rata share of the installation before the connection was made. The water main was constructed circa 1985, at which point the village and Oldham attempted to further memorialize the 1977 correspondence with a water service agreement. It restated the arrangement and established a reimbursement formula for future properties wishing to connect. There's no evidence that the village ever executed this agreement, which kind of brings that part of it into question. Over the years, there's some residents have connected to that water line and have paid their share of the prepayment cost to Oldham. However, there's about 9 left that remain unconnected. And the reimbursement formula that's used, which includes a 10% annual escalation that started in 1985, has made it exorbitantly costly and unaffordable for those particular residents to be able to come on public water. Earlier this year, the village initiated conversations with Mr. Oldham to modify the arrangement, having the village acquire the fee simple ownership of the Harbor Road North water main, fair cost, and discontinue the requirement for any future properties to reimburse prior to us providing service. The agreed upon price, which is $35,660.42, is a prorated cost of the remaining life of the water main, based on a quoted replacement cost from our onboard, one of our onboard contractors. Funding for this purchase would come from the utilities water enterprise fund balance, and then be reimbursed by the remaining properties as they connect on. So we would get that money back. The purchase agreement and the associated bill of sale that goes along with it was prepared by the village attorney, and then reviewed by Mr. Oldham's legal counsel. This is several months in discussions to get to this point, but we feel it's really a win-win-win for the village, for Mr. Oldham, as well as for the remaining unconnected property owners on that road.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay.
One question, Matt. The letter, the summary talks about fees having already been paid for the, I guess, the connection services that were provided, in addition to fees that were paid to set up the line initially. I'm just wondering, when we look at the purchase price, you said we're basing it on the prorated cost of the remaining life of the water main. I guess I'm wondering, well, what was the initial cost that was incurred? And is there a relationship between that initial cost and the price we're paying today?
I don't know what the initial cost was, and I don't know that that's available. Mr. Oldham is somewhat in the line of business, and I believe self-performed. So getting a true initial cost is difficult. The typical valuations of this type of infrastructure is a replacement cost in today's dollars, prorated or depreciated at the remaining life of the assumed remaining life of the assets.
Okay, but we're assuming the cost of the asset. We're assuming the future cost of and replacement. I guess I'm scratching my head a little bit as to what extent is that being taken into account when we talk about purchasing these lines. I guess I'm just questioning the need for us to purchase. If I were them, I'd be looking to lay this asset and the liabilities associated with it off to the village. That would be in my interest to do so. And I'm just wondering, when we come up with a price, is the price really warranted under these circumstances?
Well, based on discussions with internally, as well as with Mr. Davis, we've talked through this. As far as the asset itself is not an asset of the village.
No, understood.
Correct. For any, there is I guess a legally awkward position that both parties are in that is being cleaned up as part of this. And so working through this, some of the connection costs that were quoted to current residents wanted to connect onto that were in excess of $80,000. And And so through this agreement, the village will be able to be reimbursed for their costs, and that's bring that price down, for the water main portion of it, plus connection fees to down to about 4,500. That's where, that's where the current residents are able to, on that road or that haven't connected, are able to benefit from it.
Okay, yeah, I'm not disputing residents on that road being able to connect and benefit. I'm just wondering, well, again, I guess what's concerning me here is, should we be paying anything? If we're taking over the liability, the maintenance, and the future responsibility, and we're willing to take that on, it's almost like you're buying a company and you're assuming debt. Okay, so the debt is actually part of the purchase cost. So I'm just wondering why we are expending any dollars in this particular situation if we're willing to take this on, look up new residents accordingly, take on the maintenance and all future liability and replacement that's associated with this water line. And I'm assuming the line meets our standards. I don't even know if it meets our current operating standards at this point. We haven't really addressed that, but.
Yeah, so the village was involved at the time when the water main was constructed.
Okay.
The water main was permitted through the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and the village staff at the time, 35 years ago, was involved in the construction of it. The future, I guess, the future maintenance liability accounted for in the depreciated cost. I think I'd liken it to purchasing a used car piece of equipment. There's some residual value to that equipment, and at the same time, you are still assuming the maintenance of that equipment moving forward, or that car moving forward. Is
okay, and I get that. I get that analogy. I'll just throw out one more question because I don't want to dwell on this too long. You've had other people hook up to it, okay? So those other people paid a fee to this gentleman for the right to hook up into that line, but we're paying him. We're not reimbursing any of the other people that paid him originally to hook into the line itself. So he benefited, or he had his cost offset by the connection fees that those people paid. They're coming along for the ride. He's the one who's benefiting. I don't know if you kind of see where I'm going with all this, but I don't know. It's just raising a question in my head is the nature of how this thing's being structured. I mean, it may be what has to be done to clear up, this whole issue. I get that, but it still strikes me as a bit odd. That's all.
It's just my only 2 cents, and it probably muddy the waters more than anything, but there was some potential exposure when we first started talking about this. So this was a creative solution. Pro rata situation is nothing, is nothing new. I mean, cities, I know when I was part of a city, we annexed and we put in water lines and we created a pro rata, situation where every time somebody wanted to, tie in, they had to pay that. In this situation, we're doing that in essence of something that's already down. We're spending $80,000 to allow people to tie in so we can sell water. I mean, so there is going to be some additional revenue that we get from water sales as well, and hopefully we recoup our investment of the $80,000 that when we let people tie on and they pay that pro rata share. I think we've tried to structure that so that way when they do tie on, assuming all 9 other people tie on, that we can recoup our investment. Plus, we get to sell water.
Right.
And we get to eliminate some of our exposure with this particular situation.
Yeah, I understand.
I kind of touch on all of that, but I was just trying to
kind of move this on.
All right.
One thing to clarify, the purchase price is $35,660.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I know prospectively, I get the argument. I think it was more of a retrospective in terms of past history, and then how does that all work into a price? But let's just move it forward. I agree.
All right. Anything else on that topic? All right, let's move on to item 28, resolution 21-20. Keith?
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 2120, resolution of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, authorizing establishment of a building fund, authorizing a budget amendment to transfer certain monies into the newly created building fund, amending and decreasing the fiscal year 2019-2020 general fund 001 budget as specified in the attached exhibit A providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Brad, can you unmute Hugh, please? And I'll let Hugh tackle this one.
All right, he's unmuted.
There we
You?
go.
Yes, Mayor?
Yes.
Good evening. Yes, this item is intended to separate the building fund from the general fund. This will facilitate our annual reporting to the state of both the revenues and expenditures for the operations of the building department. As you might already know, the permit fees that's received by the village are restricted as to state law. And in the backup to the item, there is a reference to a $195,000 transfer from the building fund to the general fund. And the state law permits the allocation of both direct and indirect expenses to the building department. And in fiscal 2019, the village began allocating the indirect expenses to the building department. Prior to that time, there was no allocation of indirect costs. So this item also seeks to go back 3 years and recoup some of those indirect costs. And essentially, that's the gist of this specific item.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Hugh on this item?
No,
Well, go
I was
ahead.
gonna thank you for understanding how that works and going back and looking and finding the state codes that allow you to go back those 3 years.
Definitely.
Right, I echo those sentiments as well. Had we had this years and years ago, there would have been more clarity in terms of how the building fund worked, and I'm very glad to see this. If there aren't any other questions, then I'd like to ask for a motion to approve item 25, resolution 23-20.
So moved.
Do we need to take comment?
More comment? Yes.
No. I was gonna say, do we need to take, we already got the comments from everyone
We
prior to this?
already did the, oh yeah, I should go to the public. You're right. Thank you. You're so good. All right, let's, Lori, do we have anything on these 3 items?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Brad?
Everybody is unmuted.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have any comments on items 25, 26, 27, or 28? Okay, thank you. Now, I had a motion?
Yes, motion.
All right, thank you. Second?
Second.
Just a second. All right, all in favor? Aye. Item, let's see, may I have a motion for item 26?
Motion.
So moved.
And a second, please. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve item 27.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And finally, a motion to approve item 28, resolution 21-20. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are on the home stretch. Last 3, items 29, 30, and 31. Item 29 is resolution 24-20. Keith?
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 24-20, resolution of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, expressing intent to issue tax exempt debt to acquire, design, permit, and construct 1, a community center and associated recreational facilities, 2, stormwater drainage improvements, and 3, road and street improvements, expressing the intent for purposes of compliance with the United States Treasury Regulations, Section 1.152E, to reimburse with proceeds of such tax exempt acquisition, design, permitting, and construction of such projects, providing for the issuance by the village of notes, bonds, or other obligations in 1 or more series in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $7 million to pay the cost of such projects, providing effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you. I understand that this item is not to be approving the $7 million, but to approve, should we go forward, to approve the reimbursement with these proceeds of that cost that we have already expended. Is that correct, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'll let Hugh maybe just summarize it. He'd probably do it a lot more technical than I could.
Okay.
Yes,
Hugh?
Mayor. So the item achieves two purposes. The first is it's the official borrowing authorization for staff to move forward with procuring the necessary groundwork to go out to prepare an RFP to issue the debt. The 7 million is just a reference number, and that's the maximum that we're able to borrow. The second purpose of this item is what you just stated, is to reimburse the village for expenditures such as architectural and engineering that are incurred prior to the issuance of the debt. So essentially, this is not binding us to anything. It's just giving us the authorization to move forward. And with that said, we do have an RFP out on the street to engage a financial advisor. When that individual comes on board, that's when we'll be actually putting out the formal RFP to issue the debt and to size the debt to bring back before you for approval.
And Mayor, I just need to recuse myself on this particular item. There is a potential for personal gain that it's a stretch, but I need to recuse myself.
I see. All right, thank you for that. Are there any other questions for Mr. Dunkley?
Just one question. I know we want to have maximum flexibility, but I didn't think our intent was to go the bond route here. And I noticed bonds were listed, a bond was listed as one of the possibilities. Is there a specific is it just to maintain maximum flexibility, or I'm just wondering why that's in there?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question, Council. The term bond, from an IRS standpoint, any borrowing is considered a bond, but from a practical, for all practical purposes, we do plan to take out a loan. Okay. But the bond is primarily legal. It's legalistic in nature.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, let's move on then to item 30, which is the approval of health, dental, and life insurance for the renewals 2021. Ms. Reed, or Dr. Reed.
Okay, good. And Brad, can you unmute Rami as well?
Sure.
Okay, good evening. For the record, I'm Merlene Reed, Director, HR and Risk Management. With me this evening is Rami Mitchell from the Gearing Group to present the health insurance renewal numbers. Firstly, I want to thank the Gearing Group and the Benefits Committee members for the work that they do each year in bringing the best plans at the best available rates that you can find out there. And this year, the reps were for the unions, Bo Chesney, Jason Fawcett, and Ray Kurkowski. And for the management was Hugh Dunkley, Brad Gomberg, and of course myself. So with an uptick in our current year claims and on what we call an unsettled market, we were in fact quite fortunate to retain a 5.8% increase, or that translates to 77,000 to retain the same plan benefits. This year, we're also introducing a HMO plan, which carries a lower premium, and depending on how many employees sign up, and we've been really pushing this, the village could see a further decline in costs. Technically, you approved the dental and life insurance last year. We're here this evening asking for health, dental, and life. Last year, we shopped the market, and we have a 3-year agreement with life insurance and a 2-year agreement with the dental. So pretty much what we're asking here is for approval for us to move forward with what translates to a 5.8% increase. With that said, Rami and I, there's Rami, we're ready to answer your questions.
Council, anything for Arlene?
I'm good on the employee benefits piece.
Yeah, I thought you did a great job again.
Teamwork.
Any other questions?
Just to
All
be
right.
clear, the total annual premium is 1.693 million,
Yes,
and the village is paying 1.487 of that, and the employees are paying 206,000.
correct.
Thank you.
All right, item 31, to approve the property and casualty insurance renewals. Thank God it's a left.
And Brad, can I ask you to open up Rodney? Okay, there he is.
Rodney's unmuted.
Okay. All right, so moving right along, I want to introduce you to Rodney Lewis. He comes every year also from the Gearing Group. They also do an outstanding job for us as well. This year, we returned a 4.17 increase over the expiring year. I'm going to break it down into categories for you. And before I even go on to that, firstly, let me bring your attention to a little change that was made today. So Appendix A, you will see under the coverage limits for 2020/2021, where it says where it previously said 1,187,627. It was changed to 1,923,110%. So you should have the updated information there. Okay, so breaking it all down by categories. If you take workers' comp, our payroll estimate was approximately 300,000 lower than the expiring policy. And this change was due mainly to staff reduction. We also were fortunate enough that we're trending down again. The experience mod rate fell from 1.04 to 0.91, which created a credit of 7% to the village's premium factor. So that's a great thing. Luckily, this happened in terms of numbers because these reductions were useful in helping to offset increases to the property and general liability coverages. So if you take the general liability, you will see where there was a 12% increase there. And we are finding that significant premium increases are currently related to, due mainly to anticipated COVID-19 lawsuits. And our carriers, the league, FMIT, have resisted passing on extreme increases. So it could have been worse than the 12%. So additionally, law enforcement liability continues to trend upwards. I don't think I have to tell you exactly what's going on in the society, but this continues to trend upwards. So increased premiums across agencies. Property and inland marine, this category saw the largest increase. It's actually 20.
Touch my stuff again.
I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, this actually increased by 28.5%. Our buildings, the building values increased by 16%. Specifically, if you look at public safety, they moved from 4 million to 4.4 million. The contents moved from 950,000 to 1.6 million, including IT equipment. Village Hall moved from 3.4 to 3.5. Contents moved from 250,000 to 750,000, and so on. Also, if you look at property and inland marine, the actual inland marine, this is where the 1.9 million I was telling you about, it actually increased from 1.2 to 1.9 million. And this includes our bucket truck loaders, excavators, generators, and so on. So these circumstances, in addition to what the brokers refer to as a hardening of the property market, led to these increases. So Appendix A is really showing you that we are asking for renewal of $577,763 inclusive of the broker's fees. And this represents an overall increase of $23,122 over the expiring period. Additionally, each year I've been asking for roughly $10,000 in anticipation that we would have deductibles for liability claims. That makes it a total of $587,760. So Rodney and I are available to answer your question.
A couple of quick questions. If legislation is passed insulating employers from COVID-19 liability, that applies to a municipal environment, will we see a credit back on the insurance policy?
Rodney?
Romney's muted, so she can't respond yet.
Well, it would be me responding, Rodney Lewis with the Garen Group. So first of all, it's a good evening to you, Mayor and council members. With regards to the question, most carriers are not in the practice of issuing credits based on an anticipated increase for uncertainties and unknowns. So if there is legislation that passes later on down the road, we probably wouldn't see a credit to current policy, but you might see an adjustment on future policy premiums moving forward.
Okay. It'd be nice to get a credit if the liability doesn't materialize. The other thing is on the property side, the community center, which is now condemned and is going to be coming down, and then the fire station where we're going to put the trailer. Were those two properties included in the insurance here? And again, with the imminent tear down of the community center and the fire station being almost, well, actually, it might, if we had a storm and it blew down, it might do us a favor. How does that factor into the property liability piece of this?
Well, normally what we'll do is at the time that you guys are taking a building out of service or going to be demolishing a building, we would then remove those buildings from the schedule. And at that time, the carrier will provide a credit to the policy premium, which would reduce your next installment payments.
Okay.
The village pays in quarterly installments.
Okay,
So
and Jeremy and you, I'm assuming that insurance during the construction phase of the new community center, that's already incorporated into the cost of the community center until we bring it online, or is that going to be included under our property insurance here?
I'm not sure of that answer. We can find out for you.
Okay.
Unless you has, or Merlina has an answer to that, but we can get you an answer to that question.
Yeah, we'll get you the answer to that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions of Marlene or the Gehring Group?
If I can just add, I think credit goes to Merlina. She does spend a lot of time going through these numbers when she got it. And I mean, I know she was also raced to get it on the agenda. So I think she should be credited for her time and her effort on that too.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Marlene, of course, and thank you to the Gehring Group. They have been with us for some time, and I think that it's been a great partnership with the village. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else here? All right, then, let's open this up to the public. And Lori, do we have any cards on the 29, 30, or 31?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Brad?
The request has gone out to unmute.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have any questions or comments on items 29, 30, or 31 of the agenda? No, let's close those lines, open us back up.
All right, this is interesting. My mute controls aren't working, but it appears that the people who need to be unmuted are unmuted. So you should be able to continue.
Can you hear me?
I do.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
Because I did. All right, thank you. So everyone's back up, and we are at any other matters. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're having to take a vote. I'm getting there. Believe me, you should try and pull this all together. Keep it all straight. All right, we need a vote on item 29, resolution 24-20. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And motion to approve item 30.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And motion to approve item 31.
So moved.
Motion.
Thought we'd have everybody jumping in there. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any other matters? Does anyone have anything burning desire to give us? Oh, goodness, that's great. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Good night, everybody.
Thank you all for sticking with us this evening. It was a long agenda, but we appreciate you joining us. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Take
night.
care.